This is a Connecting Right production and does not necessarily represent the views of KHTS Radio or its ownership.
All right, welcome to Connecting Right Radio.
Hey,
we have a bit of a crowded studio tonight, but it's all for good. First off, me and Tom are obviously here because we're the host of the show. We have a special guest host who's going to be with us all evening. This is Jason Gibbs. Jason, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, Dave.
And then our special guest host, who we've had on our very first show, is running a great campaign for the LA County Sheriff, Bob Lindsay. How you doing, Bob?
It's great to be back, David. Thank you.
Great, glad to have you back. So the rundown of the show is that we're gonna do a quick chat with Bob, and then we're gonna about his campaign and some stuff that's going on. He's very knowledgeable about some stuff that's happening in Santa Clarita too. So we're gonna get on that. Then we're gonna ask him some questions about the Parkland shooting in Florida, which is a very unfortunate thing that happened this past week. And then and then the second segment is gonna be the three of us kind of discussing it a little bit more, the shootings and gun rights and the situations that happened, and just kind of our own thoughts and feelings on what to do about situations like this. And on our last segment, me and Tom went and saw the Black Panther today. And it was very good. It wasn't 100% Rotten Tomatoes, but it was still a great movie. And we're going to do a little bit of review and talk about the social stigma that's that people are trying to portray on that, which I think is kind of dumb. But anyways, let's jump right into it.
Looking forward.
Bob, great to have you back.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, and so give us a little update on the campaign. Tell us how things are going.
That's going great. You know what? Just being out in the community, being out in every community, actually. Well, it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's inner city or whether it's just up here locally, the reception is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the biggest thing about it is a lot of people just really honestly don't know what's going on. They just want to know, and that's why I love you having me on.
Yeah,
because we can go ahead and let people know what's really happening.
Exactly. And so one of the things, because I've been talking to a lot of my friends who are sheriffs and are within LA County, the sheriff's department, that aren't just up here but are all around LA County, and so this is a bit of a tough one. I've asked them. They've gone. They've looked. They've said they really liked what you're doing, your platform, and what you're saying and everything like that. But they're very worried about donating to your campaign because once you donate to a campaign, it's out there publicly. Your name's out there. It shows that you donated, and they're worried about repercussions.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely a fact, and they probably would have repercussions right now. But you can let them rest assured if they give $99 or less, and that goes for anybody. Mm-hmm. 99 or less, the names are never divulged.
Okay.
If they give $1 more, then we have to, by federal law, go ahead and report the name.
Okay. So they can still donate to your campaign and still be safe in their jobs and not have to worry about repercussions from the current administration that's within the county sheriffs, the LA County sheriffs. Jesus. So, Tom, let's see what you have to hear from, or what you want to hear from Bob.
Sure. Well, Bob, first of all, how do people donate to your campaign if they want?
You know what? You go to Bob4Sheriff.com. So that's BOB4Sheriff.com. There you can volunteer. There's lots of things you can do: yard signs, walking, phone calls, whatever it is.
Nice.
Or there's a donate button, and on there you can do the 99 less, or you can do up to $1,500 per person.
Right. Awesome. Do you have any questions for Bob at this time, Jason?
No, I don't think so.
No. So you've I know that you've done research on all of LA County, because that's what you'd be representing. So tell us a little bit about some of the facts that you found for Santa Clarita.
Yeah, actually, the sheriff is the one who, and we're pulling these stats from the sheriff's information. Mm-hmm. He got up and had a press conference, and he said that it wasn't all the data, but then he said crime was down. Basically, what he said was crime was down in all of Los Angeles County. And he had 192 pages of crime stats on there.
Wow.
And once he said that, then he pulled that data off. Mm. But it wasn't before we were able to capture it. So,
okay.
Up here, and I think we need to talk a little bit about Santa Clarita, Lancaster, and Palmdale.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the important areas that we're concerned about up here, at least right now.
Yes.
And if you look at Santa Clarita, and let's just take, for instance, the forcible rapes, the 5-year data shows that rapes are up 272%.
Jeez.
If you're looking at 1 year, it's up 86%. And in the unincorporated, we had 17 rapes in the Santa Clarita unincorporated area.
Wow.
I mean, you sit here and you think this is the bastion of safety up here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where it's supposed to be perfectly safe.
And they
Now,
well,
were these complaints of domestic abuse or domestic violence that maybe purported as a rape, or these are actual
documented rapes?
Oh, wow.
Documented rapes.
Yeah.
When you talk about robberies, the 5-year data shows it up 152%. Thefts, 5-year data up 59%. If you just go to 1 year in robberies, it's up 33%. And if you're looking at thefts in Santa Clarita, up 10%. If you move on to Lancaster, aggravated assaults over the 5-year period are up 45%. And in 1 year, up over 10%. You get to Palmdale, and let's talk about auto thefts. 500 cars were stolen this last year in the Palmdale area, unincorporated. It's like a car lot.
Yeah, wow, that's kind of insane. And well, as for Santa Clarita, I mean, we get voted in as one of the safest cities. So if that's happening here, and we're still one of the safest cities, I can't imagine other places in LA County and how much it's gone and the crime rates there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up everywhere. There are areas where and let's I want to get this out there right now. It's not the deputies' fault. The deputies in Los Angeles County are the best deputies in the country. All you have to do is take the handcuffs off them and put them on the people who deserve them.
Yes. And right now, I know that because we talked about this last time, that there's a lot of deputies that are afraid of doing their job because if you do something that somebody might consider excessive force, which actually really isn't, all of a sudden it gets put out like that, and then they're reprimanded for it, and so it becomes a big issue. And then a good deputy is taken off the streets for 2-3 years sometimes, going through and trying to deal with these with getting past these allegations that aren't necessarily true in the first place. While repeat offenders are continue to be out there. I mean, we also with Prop 5742 and all that, AB 109, those aren't helping anything either.
No, they're up against a wall and everything. The use of force now isn't a use of force anymore. You know, there was a situation just a few days ago where an inmate who was basically in shackles, because this is a very, very bad person, was approaching a deputy and telling the deputy, "I want these off me right now." All he did was put his hand up and said no, and the inmate walked to his hand and touched his chest. Right?
Yeah.
That's a use of force.
Oh, jeez.
That's a use of force right there. They had to write. And when you talk about a use of force, you want to talk about now the deputy's writing paper, the sergeant's writing paper, the lieutenant's writing paper. Mm-hmm. It is taking all of them away from their duties.
Wow. So there needs to be some reform going on.
Absolutely, and the guy that's in there now isn't reforming it the right way.
Right, and well, he came in with the idea after the whole Libaka Tanaka kind of fiasco. Then McDonald came in and said, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure our deputies are held accounted for." But now he's gone a little extreme with that.
More than extreme.
I just want to mention it wasn't a fiasco; it was corruption.
Okay, corruption. Yes. Sorry,
sorry
for using the wrong word. Yes, yes.
Okay.
But I mean, you know firsthand about the Tanaka corruption.
Yeah, of course. I was there for the entire time.
Yeah, and am I allowed to mention what you told me before about it?
Absolutely, if you want to. Yeah.
Where he asked you to fudge some scores, and after you refused to do that, all of a sudden you were put in the middle of nowhere as a commander. You got a quote unquote promotion that wasn't really a promotion.
Right. No, I'll tell you what. He came after me. The department came after me for doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And they're going after people right now for doing the right thing. I can give you example after example. My belief, there's as much corruption, if not more, right now than there was before. Wow. You've got people being told to lie, and if they don't lie, they're demoted.
Wow, and those are the people that are supposed to be out there that are supposed to feel that they want to do the best for the citizens when they can't even do that because they're being held back by the current administration.
There's more terminations now of deputies for ridiculous things than you'd ever believe, and most of these terminations are people or deputies who have 15 to 20 years on. Mm-hmm. And when you think of the value, forget the human side of it, the human aspect of it destroys their lives, but a deputy with 15 to 20 years on is worth about $1.5 million fiscally. The training they've received, everything they've received. So every person at that point that you decide to chop their head off is about $1.5 million.
So we're actually losing a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
With this also. So fiscally, it's awful for us, and it looks terrible. And where we could be keeping these on, we don't. I mean, and also, isn't there a lower amount of people that want to become sheriffs at this point because of stuff like this?
Well, the deputies are no longer recruiting, and let's get it straight. Nobody misperceives. Bad cops need to go.
Yeah.
Bad cops need to go, and all cops will tell you that.
Right.
But not cops who do something by mistake or something that's not for termination.
Right.
They need to stay. And yeah, no, the deputies right now, if you went up to a deputy right now and said, should you get a job in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, they'd laugh.
Yeah, well, they've all told me that. I was like, I know that you've had some trainees and they're up in their 40s that have been coming in. He says, well, we'll take anybody that we can, but we're not recruiting right now because no one really wants to do it. And I wouldn't recommend you going in right now. And so I was just like, ooh, like that's.
And the current sheriff doesn't know how to recruit, to be honest with you. I'll tell you that when he was at LAPD, that wasn't his job. They didn't have to do it. It was a completely separate unit that did that. But to tell you how much they don't know, in order to try and recruit right now and hire people, what they've done is they called England and brought some people in from England to tell us how to recruit here in LA.
Wow. Do they say just tell them you're not allowed to carry a gun?
I guess.
since that's how it seems to go in England. And then they get hit by cars.
They don't have Pier 24. They have the club thing. Or not even that, right?
Oh, well, they have their little. Even they carry the retractable sticks here also, right? That's.
Oh, absolutely.
But they also carry a firearm. Either what's the standard issue for the firearm right now for the sheriffs?
I'm not quite sure what it used to be the 92 Beretta, but I don't know what they're carrying right now.
Okay, because I know that a few of my friends they've gotten approval to carry different. Yeah. And it's basically whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever is going to be the best for you.
Yeah, there are options in some of the weapons and some of the holsters and things like that. And obviously, there's also exceptions for some of the people that are injured based on the things that they're wearing.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So, great. Well, where are you at in the campaign right now? Like where? How are you feeling? I want to know how you feel about where you're at.
I feel like we are exactly where we're supposed to be.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, we're getting ready to ramp up here in March, and we could use all the help we could get. Up here in this valley. It doesn't matter which valley. Here, San Fernando, San Gabriel. Everywhere. I mean, this is a big county, 4,100 square miles of territory to cover, and people that need to get interested, and they need to understand what's happening on the Sheriff's Department right now.
And I've seen I've been in a lot of stores, and or I'm just checking out like at a 7-Eleven or something, and I see the Bob Lindsay for Sheriff pamphlets there. So
any business that wants them, let me know. Right. We'll deliver them.
So people seem to be receptive to it, and I know that you are getting a lot of support from everyday deputies because they like I said, they don't want to speak out. They don't want their name to be. They don't want to get the blowback from anybody else that's a little bit higher up. But I know that you definitely have some support out here.
Well, I know that not only do I support them, I know the community supports them. And sometimes they feel left behind. It seems like they're getting attacked from all sides, but really, honestly, when I go out into the community and they hear the things that are happening to deputies, they are appalled at what's going on. Not from what's happening from outside, but what's happening on the inside.
Toughest job in the world.
Absolutely.
Bar none.
And McDonald's going to sit there and act like everything's just perfectly fine right now.
Oh, it's peachy keen.
As far as he's concerned.
It's perfect.
So, great. Do you have anything else that you'd like to ask?
Right. So, obviously, we touched on the Tanaka, and what would you do differently in terms of rooting out that type of I guess in this, I don't even know where it stemmed from. I mean, but how would you run the department differently?
In 2003, Mr. Tanaka took over the department. I'm going to tell you, he's a brilliant guy. He is. He's a very, very smart man. From 2003 until the time that he was prosecuted and then put in prison, he basically set the department up in his favor. So throughout the system, when I tell you I didn't cheat on tests, right? I was removed. That doesn't mean they didn't cheat on the test. Many of the people up there right now actually had answers to the exams. They were cheated up the chain. And McDonald hasn't dealt with that. To this very day, there's a lot of people at the top hierarchy that don't belong there.
Right.
And when McDonald came in, he didn't do anything to rid that from the top. What he did was he just started assaulting the deputies with little things, like going back 30 years on people and looking at things they did 30 years ago. It doesn't matter that last year you were the deputy of the year. He would go back 20 years, find something, and then use it against you. These are the things that he's doing, and that's absolutely uncalled for.
Right.
And what he needed to do was start from the top. Right now, technically, Mr. Tanaka could run this department from jail.
Jeez.
With the number of people he still has in power.
Wow. That's scary. That's just that blows my mind. And so we just went from one form of corruption to a different form of corruption and almost a little bit more corruption. That's very unfortunate. Well, we hope that we can get you help get you in there so that we can get rid of that corruption, have the deputies feel safe on the streets, have the people feel safe when the deputies are interacting with them. And then the last thing that we're going to go into with you, we had an unfortunate incident in Florida on Valentine's Day. The Parkland shootings that left 17 deceased and many other wounded. Very, very sad. And one of the things within that, a lot of gun control is everyone started screaming gun control because that's what a lot of people that don't wait to see everything that's happened scream. But the FBI was informed, and local sheriffs had visited his house 39 times in the past few years. So if something like that happens, how, in your opinion, how did they drop the ball? And if you're in this position and you hear about something like this happening, how are you going to handle it differently to make sure that our kids are safe at school?
Well, look, I'm a CCW guy. I am that guy. But when you get somebody who's visited 39 times, that should be a red flag. Mm-hmm. When the things that were posted on the internet, and the FBI saw those things. Now, I think the initial interview, they said they couldn't figure out who it was, but ultimately they'd figure out if it was me.
Real quick, the thing that blows my mind about that is that the initial report that was made about a comment that he made on YouTube was made with his name, Nicholas Cruz. So for them to say that we had a hard time identifying him, I'm having a hard time buying that.
Yeah, well, I think we all do. And so, but here's the bottom line. I think there were so many red flags. There's no way this guy should have been able to do what he did. Mm-hmm. But you got to look past that in this case. One, he needs to burn in hell. I'm going to tell you that right now. Mm-hmm. But there's more than 17 people who were, killed, hurt, injured. It's everybody they know. Mm-hmm. It's thousands of people that are going to be damaged by what this kid did.
Right.
And I'll tell you right now, there needs to be a system, and I hear people screaming it all the time. We need to be able to know who they are. We need to flag them. We need to have the power to do something, put them away, do the mental health thing, figure it out. The school said he couldn't carry a backpack in, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
They knew what was coming. Mm-hmm. Everybody saw it coming, but nobody stopped it from happening.
Right. And just in my opinion, we need to stop worrying about offending people and worrying about our children's safety, because I think that many lives could have been saved. All 17 lives could have been saved, and no one would have been injured. Thousands wouldn't have been affected if we hadn't, if they hadn't worried about, we're going to offend this person, or we're going to offend a certain community. Like if they would have just gone and said, hey, something's obviously going on with this guy. Let's just pull him in and talk, see what we need to do, see what the proper action is to make sure that this kid isn't actually going to go shoot up a school like he wrote in the YouTube comment that he said that he was going to do.
Well, we hear the same thing after a school shooting. Everybody needs to open their mouth. Everybody needs to say something. But then what happens? You had 39 times plus one with the FBI. Mm-hmm. Something was said.
Yeah.
Something was said in this case. What we need to do is we need to find the teachers who want to be armed to protect these kids. Mm-hmm. If you don't have something on the inside, the fact is it's going to take a 10-minute response for somebody to get there and help you.
Right.
And in 10 minutes, a lot can happen when somebody comes into these schools, churches, or anywhere else.
Right, and I think don't quote me on this because I should have brought this up earlier, but I think it was a very large school, 3,000 kids. It's something like 45 acres or something like that. It was I think that sounds a little too much, but it was a very large school, and all they had was one armed resource officer on there who by the time, from what I understand, was able to get over to where the building was. It was almost over.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you want to go back, and we talk about a lot of things, but Israel does it right. When you talk about the teachers there, you don't know who's armed. Mm-hmm. And obviously this student knew the school. He probably knew exactly where the resource officer was. Mm-hmm. And he obviously pulled the alarm, threw the smoke bombs, and he had a plan.
Yeah,
he had a plan.
And it was a gun-free zone. So, all right. Well, Bob, give us so it's Bob for the number 4 sheriff. Bob4sheriff.com. You can donate, volunteer, anything there. And I believe it's Bob Lindsay for LA County Sheriff on Facebook. Also, is the Facebook page.
Yep. You go to bob4sheriff.com, and it's going to take you to my Twitter. It's going to take you to my Instagram. It's going to take you everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you again very much for coming on. Once we get a little bit closer to the elections, we'll have you on again, just get you a little further update and have you talk some more. So thank you again for coming, and we will be back where the three of us are going to kind of discuss this shooting a little bit more. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, we're back with Connecting Right Radio, and again, it's me, Dave, Tom, regular, and Jason, our special guest host. We're going to actually let him speak a little bit this time.
Hey, I appreciate it. That was all right. Bob did great.
Yes, Bob's a great guy. Really, really happy to help him out where we can. I think he'd be a great sheriff for LA County. So hopefully, if you're listening, just remember the name Bob Lindsay when you're in the voter booth when it comes up. So, but we were talking about the Parkland, Florida shooting a little bit. And we're going to go a little bit more into that. I mean, it blows my mind that there were so many red flags that we talked about that in the first time. There's so many red flags and nothing was done.
How could this even happen?
Yeah. So, and when you visit someone 39 times, you're not visiting them for your health. You're visiting them for everybody else's health at that point. And
do we know what most of these visits were for?
Thoughts of, it was people when he was making threats, and he'd made threats against other students. The last that I heard was the main catalyst of this was that a girl had broken up with him, was dating somebody else. He went in and was looking for. And
gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. And no one ever wants. Everyone wants to just throw the the thing. Well, the mental health thing. Let's talk about that real quick. You have people
Which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, well, you have a bunch of people that always say, "Oh, mental health. We need to put more money in mental health. We need to take care of the people that have the mental health issues." And I mean, these can range from anything from schizophrenia to depression to what I don't know. What are some other mental health issues? Anxiety, autism. Just anything that's going on.
Schizoid break from the millions of medications that they're taking,
yeah,
being forced on. But
it's funny that one of the things that you learn about with a lot of these mass shootings is that they stopped taking their psychotropic drugs shortly before this happened. But it blows my mind that there's people that constantly advocate for it, and then once a shooting happens, they say, "Oh, it's not a mental health thing; it's a gun thing."
Well, what are we really talking about in terms of mental health? Are you going to now require medical professionals to report to the federal government that report to the federal hello, Mr. American, all ships at sea, to report to the federal government that this person is now suffering from a mild form of depression or anxiety or taking some drugs? Nobody will go to and receive help if that's the case.
That's the downfall of it. So what do you think, Jason? What do you think about the mental health side of these things?
Mental health's a tough one. It was kind of interesting when my wife and I had our first child. After you have your kid, you immediately go into the pediatrics and they do a checkup and they ask you a bunch of questions. She and I hadn't slept in 3 days, so you're just kind of yes, whatever. But they ask, do you keep guns in your house?
Oh, why?
And so they're asking
postpartum thing?
Oh, they don't even say why.
Really?
They're asking early on about firearms.
Wow.
And mental health is an issue. There is no doubt about it. But to jump to the conclusion that simply getting rid of a constitutional right would have prevented all of this, it's a pointless argument, and it's not true. Mm-hmm. And it's very disingenuous just to come out and say that.
Right. There's other ways that I'm 100% for if we can find a correct way of doing it where someone's not going to lie about or going to refuse to get treatment for mental health over owning a gun. Mm-hmm. If we can figure a way out, like I have no problem. Contact my doctors. I'll sign a form. I'll do whatever for just so that I can make sure that I know I'm not going to do it, but to make sure that other people aren't able to do what it was happened in Parkland. And I just think that there's some instances where, you can go in, you can buy a gun, and 2 seconds later you're walking out with it. California, we have to wait a 10-day waiting period. I'm honestly waiting a 10-day waiting period right now for a stripped lower to replace the lower on my AR-15. And I'm fine with that. I have no problem with waiting. I'm not the apocalypse isn't going to happen in 10 days. So, there's certain things that I'm okay with. You're not restricting the right. You're not taking the right away, but you're just making it a little more safe for everybody else.
Or some would argue you're infringing on it.
You could. Well, you could, but I don't because I'm still going to get it.
Well, look,
sure.
Let's call it for what it is. You're never going to repeal the Second Amendment. First of all, if you were to even contemplate that, this requires an act of Congress to amend the Constitution. But then, how are you going to enforce this? You're going to send LEOs into harm's way. It would be. I hate to say this, it would probably be a bloodbath.
Yeah, you'd better get rid of the Fourth Amendment too to start going in everybody's homes.
Right.
Exactly. Right. and then the First Amendment because you don't want them saying anything to anybody else about it. So
And
it's just it's a slippery slope.
And you still won't solve the problem, which, essentially that is not the answer. And I don't know what it is at this point.
Another one of the things that I've had kind of an issue with is the media covering this and the fashion that they've been doing it. A lot of news outlets were saying, since January there's been 18 school shootings. School shootings. So let's look at the school shootings that have happened. January 25th, Mobile, Alabama, high school student fired a gun on campus. No one was injured. 26th, in Dearborn, Michigan, shots were fired from a car in a parking lot. No injuries were reported. February 5th in Maplewood, Minnesota, a third grader pulled the trigger on a cop's gun. How does that even happen? But no one was injured. February 8th, New York, shots fired inside Metropolitan High School. No one was injured. Now the cases where people were injured, Italy, Texas, teenage girl was wounded by shots from a semi-automatic handgun. The same day in Gentilly, Louisiana, 14-year-old boy was injured in a shooting. Los Angeles, February 1st, 5 children were injured in an accidental shooting. So now they're calling accidental shootings school shootings. February 5th, Maryland, a teenager was shot and injured outside of a high school. And then, unfortunately, on to the fatalities, which now some of those I would definitely call school shootings, like the teenage girl was wounded from shots from a semi-automatic handgun. That's going to be a school shooting. But if you have a kid, teenager was shot and injured outside of a high school, how do we even know that was a school-related incident at the time? But fatalities, January 20th, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a football player was shot and killed. It doesn't say if he was shot and killed in school, just as he was shot and killed. January 23rd, Benton, Kentucky, 2 people were killed and another 15 were shot at Marshall County High School. Now, that's a school shooting. January 31st, a fight broke out at a Pennsylvania high school. A 32-year-old man was shot and later died. What was a 32-year-old man doing at a freaking high school? Sorry.
Well, they could probably say that this was a firearm discharged on school grounds, and so we're calling it a shooting.
You got to make a note of that, Cody. So the 17 school shootings before Wednesday's shooting, 3 students died, roughly 30 to 35 were injured. So it's just an unfortunate incident.
And unfortunately, when reporters are talking about it, they're not talking about what's happening as reporters. They're talking about it as a form of activism.
Right.
As it's now we're going to push a narrative. It's going to be we got to blame guns. And none of us can sit here and understand what it would be like to lose a child.
Right.
For any reason, whether it's a drunk driver, whether it's a school shooting.
Admittedly, emotions are very high.
Yeah, and as they should be and are expected to be.
Yeah.
So I worry that when they sit there and they talk to all these kids and they interview these children, and the children are saying, yeah, we didn't get a good vibe from this guy. There was something not right. He was always really mean and really weird.
Right.
And like Dave talked about earlier, well, you don't want to say that because you don't want to offend anybody for saying it. But they're getting some real alarms. Like something's not right.
You look on his social media, he's got a bunch of pictures with guns, with his face covered.
Guns and threatening people.
Yeah, and it's like, how far does it have to go? Like, do we have to wait until he actually shoots somebody before we go, okay, we should do something about this? Something needs to be done beforehand. And like we mentioned before, FBI and local police dropped the ball on this big time.
I just wonder again how it fell through the cracks. I mean, I post something mildly inappropriate as a joke,
right.
And suddenly I'm being reported. But someone who is obviously mentally ill and making threats on Facebook, suddenly
right?
It goes without any type of scrutiny.
Yeah, you make one little mistake on Facebook and you're banned for 30 days. You post a bunch of guns on Instagram and you get visited 39 times and you're still able to go shoot up a school. I don't understand that. I don't get that.
And from the reports we read on the kid, he bought the gun legally. He did his background check and he passed the Florida laws to acquire the gun.
Yeah.
So once again, you're finding new holes as well. Maybe we're not doing enough.
Yeah.
But it's allowing people to take the emotion and jump to, you know what? It's the right that's the problem.
Right.
It's the 99.9% of people that don't abuse it and respect it. That could be a problem one day. So we need to do something about that.
If you told me 100% that banning all guns, repealing the Second Amendment would solve the problem, if you told me that mental health, putting an emphasis on mental health and flagging all those individuals that had any type of mental health that could lead to some type of violence, I would be absolutely all for it. But the problem is there is no data to support any of this. So we could be doing all of this, taking away, and we have to be very careful about taking away, rights, especially constitutional rights,
right?
Because you can't well, I suppose you could give them back at a later date, but you're taking them away.
Give it back at a later date. I don't know how much I agree with that.
but I'm saying, you're taking them away. But at the same time, you're not providing any evidence that this is absolutely going to solve the problem, and that's where I think the failure of logic stands with that.
And is there anything that's really going to completely solve the problem? I think there was a time when we didn't have shootings in schools, and there was like a rifle or some sort of gun in almost every single car in a high school parking lot.
Yeah,
I've always contended that what changes is how the kids and how society is handling firearms. If you look at my parents, my dad would talk of days of walking down the railroad tracks in upstate New York with a firearm on his back with a rifle, just walking down the street, loaded.
Yeah.
Would stop at the railroad tracks. They'd set up cans, and kids would shoot cans.
Yeah.
And they'd turn around and they'd walk home. So the item became respected. I look at it now, growing up now for the last 30 years, a kid's introduction today is Call of Duty. It's putting on a pair of headphones in your room at 2 a.m. when your parents are asleep, having cuss wars while you're sitting there trying to kill people in a simulated environment.
Talking crap about each other's mom.
Right? and we find it funny, but that is the introduction they're getting to firearms.
Yeah, as opposed to the respect that you should earn with the firearm.
Well, when you mention that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, obviously we do have a breakdown in the nuclear family that's happened for the last 20 or 30 years. Where is this boy's father?
Yeah,
he passed away early.
Yes,
so this boy passed away early, and I believe his mother passed away a few months.
Yeah,
months
and he was
before.
adopted,
and that or he was with friends or family
or something. Yeah, I know he wasn't with his family, but I mean,
some father.
There was a father figure.
There was a father. Yeah, but the thing is that all of a sudden, if you're scared of firearms, if you don't want to teach, if you don't want to educate people on firearms, then they're gonna get educated somewhere else, and it may not be in the correct fashion.
No.
It's almost the same way as you need to learn to respect women and how to treat women, and because if you don't, you're going to learn it from somewhere else, and that may be that yelling and hitting a woman is okay, and that's not. So it needs to start with the family of saying, here's dangerous things that you're going to encounter in life. All right, these are uncomfortable things to talk about, but we're going to talk about them. And guns is one of them. Sex, this and that, everything else that you need that you have the quote unquote the talk with your kid. Guns needs to be one of those. And it was before.
It was,
and it no longer
by
is.
necessity.
Yeah. And it no longer is, but now it is a necessity because even someone else mentioned had to have the quote unquote talk with my kid about what to do in an active shooter situation. Whereas if we had the talk with here's what firearms are for, here's what you use them for self-defense, you use them for going out and target shooting and stuff like that. They're never to be used against another human being unless it's for self-defense. And if you have that talk with them and listen to the kid and answer their questions and make them feel comfortable saying, okay, like I know that guns are dangerous, but I know how to treat them with respect, that you're going to run into a lot less of these incidents.
I'll tell you a really quick funny story. When I was a kid, I was deathly afraid of spiders. I mean, like really. I'm not now, but maybe
sure?
A little bit. Yeah. But deathly afraid of spiders. So what I did was I went to the library, Valencia Library right here, and I learned as much as I could about spiders and what they do and their habitat and just everything. And I wasn't afraid of them anymore after that.
It's funny. The more you know about something, the less you're afraid of it.
Right. Now, giant squids, on the other hand.
I don't know, man. Have you gotten to know a giant squid
I will
before?
not go in the ocean, man. Giant squid is going to eat me.
Have you ever tried to talk to a giant squid just
No.
to try to get to know it? Maybe it's
It
very
might
nice.
be decent. It might be decent folk.
Right.
We have a beer with.
Right. and then as soon as you set up a date, they'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that.
It's all tentacles and ripping you apart.
Right. All right. Well, we are going to take our second break. When we come back, we are going to be talking about the Black Panther.
Yay!
Very good movie. Very good movie. All right. We'll be back shortly.
Cool.
All right. Welcome back to Connecting Right Radio. We had a good kind of a heavy talk those first two segments, so we're going to try to lighten it up a little bit here. And Tom and I went and saw Black Panther today.
It was awesome.
Tom really enjoyed it. I thought it was great too. For me, I I thought it was a good movie. I guess because my whole thing was, you know what, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to be honest about it. I know that I'm going to be called a racist and a bigot or whatever if I didn't like the movie, but I did. It was a good movie. They followed along with the origins of everything that kind of happened with Black Panther and Wakanda.
Very close to the comic book.
Yeah,
stories.
yeah. Being built on vibranium, being this very futuristic, very technologically advanced city that they kind of have to hide because they almost had like a nationalist.
Absolutely.
They were like we have something really great going on here. We don't want anybody else coming in and messing it up.
Right. Who cares what happens to the rest of the world as long as Wakanda is okay?
Yeah. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with Black Panther, Jason.
Only vaguely, but I'm gonna ask you. I asked you guys off here. I'm going to ask you on it.
Yeah.
Guy I respect says that it's better than any Star Wars movie made to date.
I don't know about that.
See, that's tough. It's tough. Yes,
Putting you on the spot.
Yes, they're all Disney. We get that, but
It's the same guy writing everything.
right. I don't know. The Solo trailer looked awesome. I don't know. I wouldn't call it better than any Star Wars movie. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, it cracked. It's in my top 5 of Marvel movies.
Sure.
The top number 1 for me is Thor Ragnarok. I thought that's been.
I haven't seen that one yet. I need to see that.
Well, you're missing out. Thor Ragnarok, then Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and then number 5 would be Black Panther.
You like Doctor Strange?
It was perfect.
Really?
Yeah, because they did everything that they needed to do to say this is how it came about. This is how he learned his stuff. They did it very closely.
You don't think it was a little bit of a miscast with the ancient one?
The ancient one, but how
English?
Okay, tell me that Cumberbatch doesn't look exactly like Doctor Strange.
He does.
That was like,
He does.
Like he was
He's even got the
literally
finger
born.
things going. He's got the
Yeah, he was literally born for that role.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
No, Doctor Strange. I think they did, and he's literally one of the most powerful people in the comic book in the MCU, the Marvel comic universe. Like a lot of people don't understand that out of everyone that's in there, Hulk and everybody, he is the most powerful.
Well, he's like the dude's rug. He keeps the whole thing tied together in the background.
Right, yeah. So, but I thought it was good. It did everything. There's only one thing that I didn't like, and that's that they had Killmonger born in Oakland. He was actually born in Wakanda, then went over to the United States after a failed attempt to become king. He did go to MIT, which they did talk about. He was very educated, very smart man. They made him a little more militaristic than I felt that he was in the comic books. But I mean, they just kind of had to do that. But I mean, his name's Killmonger because he racked up a bunch of kills.
Yeah, he's got the little tattoos.
Yeah, he's got the implants. Those all his implants all over. Look like
scarification.
Looks like he's got a bunch of speed bumps on him. No, yeah, that's how it was. And so, and that was one of my biggest things because Killmonger he's a bad dude. He's a really just a crazy guy, and they did and Michael B. Jordan did a really good job playing him. Yeah. And Chadwick Boseman obviously did a great job as T'Challa again. And you just get to learn a little bit more about where Black Panther came from, and it's not just like this whole like Praise Africa movie, which I think a lot of people think it is. Yeah. It's actually more of like a they kind of had their own little area, and like I said, they kind of had like a nationalist idea about it. Like we can't let like even our fellow countrymen that are kind of around us, we have to play off that we're this third world country because we don't want there's too much corruption going around.
Well, they think that as soon as they announce to themselves that they exist, suddenly there's going to be even more war because of the vibranium.
Yeah.
And their way of life would be destroyed. One of the things I really liked about this, I don't know if you know this, my family actually, my aunt and my cousin, my uncle, they're from Malawi, Africa, which is over on the, I guess you would call it the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's one of the poorest nations there. But so I kind of grew up with all these motifs.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really appreciated this movie is they really paid attention to detail in terms of the motifs. Yeah. And the various, you had stuff from Kenya, from Tanzania,
all over, just
Chad,
the different war paints,
really,
the different garbs that they had on. It was very much, they didn't say like, oh, Wakanda has its own specific one or the other. They kind of incorporated a bunch of,
except for the spaceships.
Oh yeah, they don't have Elon Musk yet. I mean, Elon Musk is South African, so come on, they kind of did incorporate everything in there.
But it's a gorgeous movie.
Yeah.
Just some of the shots they were doing. I got goosebumps in a few of the things. I had a few problems with the movie, but they were just so cosmetic as not even to take away from it.
Like they made Killmonger because he came from Oakland. He was raised without a father. They kind of the way that he spoke in the comic books. He speaks much more educated. He sounds a lot
eloquently.
More, much more eloquent.
He's like Ice-T in this
where
one.
they kind of had like a little bit of a gangster type of vibe from him. But it's like in today's that just sort of translates into the way that things are today. Like it's going to be more the gangster dude that's going to be going in and doing exactly what he did. We're not trying to give away spoilers, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what he did, but the way he went in and handled business, it was more. He did that more in a gangsta fashion, I guess you could say. But
I guess there's been some controversy, like, oh, this is a black movie, right? And I got to tell you, after seeing this movie appeals to anybody.
Yeah, it does.
Everybody across the board. It is so much good fun. The story is great. Well, the story was great in the comics, and I loved it.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to say is that whenever a white person was referred to, a lot of the times, they were referred to as either colonists or white boy. So
I don't know why they did that.
So that, for me, but there is a white agent in there, and they're very respectful of him. They don't. I think he's the one that gets called white boy, but it's called by one of the outside tribes. Is the
He's
not
Bilbo.
So, the not so yeah. Well, he
Bilbo
is.
Baggins.
It was. It was funny. The two main white guys in there was one the guy that played Bilbo and the other one that played Gollum.
Right.
They were the
Andy Serkis, man.
yeah. They were the
He was
great. They were the Tolkien white guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, David.
That's great.
Sorry, I stole that from somebody else.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Cody, thank you.
Yeah.
But
White guys.
but no, it was a great movie. They did talk about the social injustice that does happen in the black community, and like one of the things was Killmonger wanting to kind of come in and take the vibranium and bring it out was to give the what they call the war dogs, that they're these spies that they have out in other countries that are from Wakanda. They want to give the war dogs these weapons to stand up for themselves in a better fashion than they're able to now. And then T'Challa and everyone else is like, no, they're just going to kill everybody. It's going to be
sort of in one fell swoop to end all oppression.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, but it's also but it's also like saying we're going to end our oppression by oppressing you.
Right.
So
right.
it was, and so that's where like T'Challa he wants to end oppression of the black community. The rest of the
T'Challa
world.
ain't having none of that.
But he's not gonna do it with violence and destruction.
Yeah.
So I think it was a very good. It was a great movie. It was a lot of fun to watch, and and Tom bought me a T-shirt.
Hey.
You gotta have a souvenir. The cast was just amazing. I thought it was really well cast. Just a hell of a lot of beautiful people everywhere, and I want to live in Wakanda.
Right.
It seems fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're living on a meteorite of vibranium and you have the most powerful substance in the world powering your entire city, you're going to see a lot of cool things and a lot of advancements. Some of his sister was I forget the actress that played T'Challa's sister, but she's absolutely brilliant in it. The actress and the character are both very brilliant. And the stuff that she comes up with for her, because she's kind of like James Bond had Q.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
And Black Panther has his sister.
Right.
She's the one that comes up with all the technology and
She's
stuff.
explaining to him like what all the weapon and technology does.
Yes, exactly.
So we had a very Q-like moment, I think.
So she was really great. You planning on going to see the movie, Jason?
Well, if I can. The two little ones at home. You're lucky you get to sleep. Let them go see a movie.
That's true. Well, it'll be out on digital soon enough, so hopefully you can get and hopefully the kids don't keep you up so long that you fall asleep in the middle of it.
Yeah, we'll pause it and then restart it again.
There you go.
I think I probably sung to my son, "The Lion Sleeps Tonight," roughly about 500,000 times.
Can you do it for us here?
I will not.
Okay.
I will not. I will spare you.
Yes. But yeah, no. So I encourage people to go out and see it. But the thing that when you hear a lot of politicizing about movies and stuff like this, it really upsets me because you shouldn't be going in with any type of expectation. Go in to say, I'm going to watch a movie and I'm going to hope for the best. Not, oh, well, I'm going to go in and this is supposed to be like the best movie ever. Or this is supposed to be like, oh, this is just going to be super politicized and it's going to be awful. You know, and because it ruins it for you.
You'll trick yourself to thinking it was a bad movie.
Exactly. It's like somebody tells you an opinion before you see the movie, then you're going in with an opinion yourself, and it's unfair to the movie. I mean, same thing with any type of article or podcast or anything else. When you need to go in with an open mind and make a decision for yourself.
Yeah, if you are a fan of Marvel, and especially older Marvel stuff like the 70s when Black Panther started to come out, and the fan of the stories, this is really going to hit home and appeal to you. And like I said, the photography was just amazing.
Yep. And
but the action sequence in the beginning with the warrior bodyguard.
Oh yeah.
She just lays flat an entire disco.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, I thought the choreography was spectacular.
It was, yeah. The fight scenes are done extremely well.
Yeah.
Bilbo does a great job as
Bilbo
as crew.
As Bilbo trying to be CIA agent.
Right. Yeah. But no, it was just a lot of fun, you know, and that's what the Marvel movies are about.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there are people within the Black community that do need this. They had to say, like, because you know, I watched a video and there's two kids are probably about like 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're looking at the black pants. He's like, oh, I'm going to be that one. I'm going to be that one. And like, and you know, like, yes, I've seen black kids dress up as Spider-Man, Batman, and stuff like that. But this is something where, you know, they kind of get like their own. Like we've had all those. You know, you never really saw a black kid be like, I'm going to be Blade. Like, you know, like you know, it was.
I want to be Blade,
right?
But
I mean, well, we all wanted to be a half vampire that could walk in the sun. But
I'd like to be able to walk in the sun, Dave. This red
Actually,
hair.
for Halloween, I would love
Ginger
to. I would
man.
love to be Black Panther, except maybe in my case, it's more like Fat Panther.
Fat Panther. Oh, Tom, how much time have we got left, Cody? Come on, Cody. All right,
Any
there
more
we go.
puns? Any
There
more
we go.
puns?
Are you going to go see the movie, Cody? Have you seen it yet?
I've not seen it yet. I might go see it. I'm not a fan of movie theaters. Might wait, get it on digital, but definitely looks good.
What's wrong with seeing it in a movie theater?
It's
I have to interact with human beings.
All right.
I feel like they're getting pretty expensive for the variables to what I'm walking into when I go into that theater.
$20 for a popcorn.
Yeah.
popcorn?
Yeah, I just assumed that this is all the interaction that you want to deal with each week.
Well, that as well, you know.
we're enough for you. You don't need any more.
Maybe on an off week I'll catch it. You know.
There you go. Well, great. Well, Jason, really appreciate you coming on.
No, man, the pleasure's great.
This is great. I know you're doing a lot of studying on the Second Amendment right now, kind of looking up stuff with that, and kind of just trying to get a better perspective. Or
I'm trying to get a better understanding what's happening in the legal world around it. You know, everybody talks about the Heller decision in 2008, but there has been a lot of activity in federal courts and even in the Supreme Court that hasn't been as public. And I'd say one of the more recent ones, which got a lot of publicity locally, was the Peruta case. And that was famous out of California because Peruta challenged that the good cause requirement to get a concealed carry permit was unconstitutional.
Right.
The original appellate court agreed with him and said that California was basically banning the Second Amendment to its citizens. They went back to the en banc appellate court and they said no, they don't believe the Second Amendment is protected. Concealed carry is protected under the Second Amendment.
Right.
But they refused to talk about open carry. So right now, as of this past Thursday, there was an open carry case in California that was just heard down in Pasadena.
Oh, interesting.
But we'll have to wait. Most times when it comes to Second Amendment, it takes years to get decisions.
I was going to say, I'm like, I'm 30, I'll be 37 this year, so maybe when I'm 82, I might be able to open carry.
And so the Peruta guys, after he lost en banc, they did appeal to the Supreme Court, and it got a lot of national news because they thought for sure that it would be heard. Yeah. And they denied the cert. But in that denial, new Chief Justice Gorsuch, and Thomas, they wrote basically a dissent saying we should have taken this case. And one of the things in there I wanted to read before we let off the air was straight out of that, and it's the last paragraph. And Thomas says, "For those of us who work in marbled halls, guarded constantly by a vigilant and dedicated police force, the guarantees of the Second Amendment might seem antiquated and superfluous. But the framers made a clear choice. They reserve to all Americans the right to bear arms for self-defense. I do not think we should stand by idly while a state denies its citizens that right, particularly when their very lives may depend on it." And I respectfully dissent.
Wow.
No. Wow. That was Thomas, or
That was Thomas with Gorsuch
Wow.
and Green.
Okay.
And there's been a bunch of cases that have basically made a bunch of appellate court splits, which means one court says, no, we think the Second Amendment means this. Next court says, no, it means this.
yeah.
That is when the Supreme Court will typically step in and hear a case.
Gotcha.
So I think we'll hear something.
Soon.
How soon? It's
Yeah.
We'll see.
Very interesting.
Well, hopefully sooner than later.
I agree.
Because the stuff that it's in limbo kind of leaves us in limbo also.
Yes, it does.
But again, thank you very much for coming
My
on and being a
pleasure,
part of
dude.
this.
Thank
We're
you so
going to
much.
have you
Thank
back
you,
on
Tom.
in the future.
Would love it. Would love it.
Next week, we're going to have a bit of an interesting guest. His name is Ivan Pacell. He's a comedian and a juggler. He's local out here, born and raised out here. And his show that he does, he goes around, does colleges. He used to work on cruise ships. And his show's called Making Juggling Tolerable Again.
Nice.
Or Making Juggling Tolerable. So, yeah.
I tried juggling once, but you got the book and the little beanbag things.
Yeah, he does
Disaster.
knives and fire.
Yeah,
and
that's
ping
not
pong
beanbags.
balls. All right, guys. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you next
All
week.
right, guys.